let's talk about documentation. But I want you to completely forget the idea of boring paperwork. Instead, think of it as a fortress, a protective barrier that you build note by note to keep your patients safe from any harm. And that is the critical skill we're breaking down today.
So how can a few words typed on a screen, literally, make the difference between a safe recovery and a catastrophic error? That's the huge question here, because getting this right can absolutely save a life.
So that's our mission today, to build this fortress of patient safety. And every single piece we discuss, from the legal rules to the latest tech, is going to be another layer of protection. We're going to construct it together, piece by piece.
So here's our construction plan for the day. We're going to start with the absolute foundation, HIPAA law. Then we'll lay out the blueprint with quality charting. After that, we build the walls using proper note formats, power up the command center with informatics, and then establish our emergency protocols. And of course, we'll wrap it all up with a fortress recap. Let's get to it.
You know, every strong fortress needs an unshakable foundation. And in healthcare, that foundation is federal law, specifically HIPAA. This isn't just about privacy rules, you guys. This is the bedrock of patient trust and safety. These are the non-negotiables. Okay, so think of HIPAA as having two main shields. First, you've got the privacy rule. This is all about who is allowed to see the information. It's strictly based on a need to know. Then you have the security rule. This is all about how that information is protected. We're talking about the digital locks, the passwords, the firewalls, all of it. And this table right here breaks down that need-to-know rule perfectly. Your assigned patient? Of course. Yes, you have a direct treatment relationship. Your neighbor who's a patient on another floor? That is a hard no. Curiosity is a huge HIPAA violation. But here's the one that trips people up. A busy coworker asks you to quickly look something up for them. The answer is still no. They can't use your access, you can't use theirs. Just remember, the system tracks every single click you make.
Okay, so we've got our legal foundation poured. Now, we need a blueprint. These are the architectural rules for our documentation, the things that make our charting strong, clear, and, really importantly, legally defensible if it ever ends up in court. So for your notes to be legally bulletproof, they need these 5 qualities. They must be factual. That means stick to what you can see, hear, and measure. No opinions. So instead of patient seems anxious, you document what you actually see. Second, be accurate with your data. Third, be current. Chart in real time as much as you possibly can. And finally, make sure your notes are organized and totally complete.
Okay, I need everyone to pay close attention here. This do not use list from the Joint Commission is a big deal. It exists because these specific abbreviations have actually caused fatal medication errors. Look at the zeros. A trailing zero, like 5.0, can so easily be misread as 50. And a missing leading zero, like 0.5, can be misread as 5. The rule is simple. Never use a trailing zero and always use a leading zero. This is one of those non-negotiable safety rules. And this slide just perfectly illustrates the difference. On the left, you see wound healing well. Well, what does well even mean? That's a vague opinion. A lawyer would have a field day with that. Now look at the right. The defensible note is incision 5 centimeters, edges approximated, no redness. See? It's factual, it's accurate, and it paints a clear picture that anyone could understand, even 5 years from now. All right, with our blueprint in hand, it's time to actually build the walls of our fortress. And we're going to do that using standardized charting formats that give our notes a strong, logical structure.
So you're going to run into several different charting formats. You've got SOAP, which is Subjective Objective Assessment Plan, PI, which stands for Problem Intervention Evaluation, and DAR, which is Data Action Response. Now, they're all structured a little differently, but notice they all have a crucial final step: documenting the outcome. Did your intervention actually work? That's the P in SOAP, the E in PI, and the R in DAR. You have to close that loop.
Okay, every modern fortress needs a high-tech command center, right? In nursing, that's the world of informatics. These are the smart systems that act like our early warning network, constantly scanning for potential threats to patient safety.
First up, a really key distinction you're likely to see on an exam. An EMR, or electronic medical record, is the chart for just one single encounter, like one hospital stay. But the EHR, the electronic health record, that's the big picture. It's the patient's entire health story across their whole lifetime.
The goal is to have an EHR that any provider can access, anywhere to provide safer, more informed care.
Now, one of the most powerful tools in our command center is something called CPOE, or Computerized Provider Order Entry. You know that old problem in medicine, illegible handwriting? CPOE was designed to solve that. By making providers enter all their orders electronically, it just completely eliminates the risk of misinterpreting a scribbled handwritten order. So if CPOE is the input, then the Clinical Decision Support System, or CDSS, is the brain. It's basically an automated safety net. So a provider orders penicillin, the system instantly scans the patient's entire record for allergies, interactions, everything. And if there's a problem, bam, it throws up a huge alert. This system is your partner in catching mistakes before they can happen.
You know, a smart fortress also needs really clear emergency protocols. This section is all about how to handle high-risk communication, like taking a verbal order or documenting an incident, situations where one tiny mistake can have incredibly serious consequences. When you have to take an order over the phone, there is zero wiggle room. You must follow the TORB protocol. First, you write it down as they're saying it. Then, you read it back word for word to the provider for confirmation. And finally, you document TORB, telephone order read back. This proves you verified the order and closes a really dangerous communication loop. Okay, everyone, listen up, because this might be the most important legal point we cover today. When an incident happens, like a patient fall, you document the objective facts in the patient's chart. Separately, you fill out an internal incident report. Now, here is the cardinal rule. You never, under any circumstances, write incident report filed in the patient's chart. The second you do that, you've just made that internal, confidential report legally discoverable in a lawsuit. You've completely broken the protective wall between the two. Don't do it.
And there we have it. We've built our fortress. We laid the foundation, drew the blueprint, raised the walls, and we powered up the command center. So now let's do one final walkthrough of the most important, high-yield defenses you absolutely need to remember. So here's the final, boiled-down recap. HIPAA. Only access your signed patients. Period. Quality documentation. Keep it factual, accurate, and current. The do not use list. Watch those zeros. Incident reports. Never, ever link them in the chart. And technology. CPOE stops handwriting errors while CDSS warns you about risks. If you can master these principles, you're building a fortress that protects both your patient and your own license.
And so we end right where we began. Every note you write, every box you check, it's another stone in the wall of that fortress that's protecting your patient. So the question you have to ask yourself at the end of every single shift is this: is the fortress I built today strong enough to withstand any attack? Is it built to last?